Have you ever caught something on camera that just didn't belong? Well, hopefully it wasn't a demon like the folks we're about to talk about. David Bourget and his family live in Florida now, after they were urged to flee from their Springfield, Massachusetts home following a disturbing paranormal event. So back in October of 2020, David's front door camera let him know that a package was on the porch, so he opened the door to retrieve it. Well, as his front door swung inwards, the camera mounted on it faced into the living room where his wife sat on the sofa. And the footage shows David dragging this large parcel inside, wrestling it into the center of the room. Now, he decided to review the front door footage to see if he could determine whether the package arrived damaged or if the carrier had been too rough with the box. And what he saw on the camera was absolutely freaking terrifying. So as he opened the door, the camera captures a skeletal figure in a black robe sitting on the couch next to his wife. And the figure that looks very much like the Grim Reaper doesn't move at all during the video. It stares unblinkingly towards the camera. Wifey never saw the being, but she did sense it. She reportedly felt cold and pain on the side of her body closest to where the entity sat. And there was nobody else in the building at the time the entity appeared. So after consulting with paranormal investigators, the family was like, hey, let's sell this place, get out of here because we're not dealing with this. And good on them. More often than not, folks stay behind, fight the demon. Not worth it. A dog-walking couple says they bumped into something pretty terrifying. A creepy-looking figure crossed right in front of them in the dark, and even though they caught it on camera, they have no clue what this is. Hannah and Dave Rowett were strolling with their pups through Clumber Park in Nottinghamshire, England, and they bumped into this shadowy creature. You can see it seemingly appear out of thin air and cross their path before going poof. So Hannah's picture was taken as a live photo. So with live photos, you can make them into videos. And then their daughter posted it to Facebook. They're like, oh, seems we weren't alone on our early morning walk today. And the post kind of did gangbusters. It got about 500 reactions. There was thousands of comments, shares. Somebody was like, maybe it's the ghost of a dog or a fox. Somebody else commented saying they had chills seeing that. They're like, how lucky are you? Now, a lot of folks were like, maybe this was cigarette smoke. Maybe this was a vape. The couple's like, we don't smoke. It wasn't that. Apparently, Dave is like, I am a full-blown skeptic, but this encounter made me a believer. He's like, I've always been really skeptical, but literally every hair from my feet to my head stood on end. He's like, I asked her to show me the photo again. I loved it. Now, while the couple might never know what they saw, Hannah feels comforted by the online detectives. She's like, I've had so many messages about it. It justifies our feeling about it. There aren't many like this out there, and we've got no logical explanation. Well, fun fact folks, apparently this park is supposedly haunted by a gray lady spirit. This woman in a long coat, a demon, crawling on her long limbs, which kinda lines up pretty well with the hunched over thing we saw in the clip. So a paranormal investigator claims to have recorded his best evidence yet of the unknown. Mark Davies and 3 friends visited Erie Wood, Kennelvale at Cornwall back in early 2019 when they had this encounter. He claims footage showing a silhouette appearing across a small bridge, which leads to one of the really, left behind, busted up mills standing on the site, shows something. So Mark and his friends were trying to measure paranormal activity in the area. They wanted to communicate with supernatural beings. So in the video, Mark was like, I always knew they existed. I have felt them, smelt them, heard them. And now, I have seen them. Some may call them aliens, some may call them demons. The Watchers, many other names. And this was his best evidence visual up to date of a non-human being caught on a video camera. He's like, some folks think it's a hoax, that I manipulated the evidence provided. And he's like, well, the evidence is here. The proof is in the pudding. So in the clip, he's like, show us that you're here. Show us that you live on, please. We're here to communicate with you. Well, a couple seconds after that, Mark's friend Wendy starts losing her air. She's coughing as we're seeing something happening on the bridge. So Mark continues, can all the spirits in these woods stand in front of the bridge? And he's like, hey Wendy, you okay? He was also asking, is it safe to go beyond this bridge? If it's dangerous, can you show yourself, please, on this camera? And then there was a bit of a change of frequency. Mark started to be physically affected by the presence. So the video shows he had to walk away from the bridge for a bit. Apparently his back started to kill him. Mark later said, although the group felt a presence, the creature could not be seen in person. And when asked what kind of being it was, Mark was like, I haven't got any idea. The face is not right. It's not human. But it's definitely there. It was a solid form. I don't want to go there again. He's like, yeah, it gave me a feeling that scared the hell out of me. I just think it's evil. It's not from this world. It was definitely there and it was a solid form. He felt a presence, a coldness and a pain. He just asked it to show itself and it was there. Yeah, I can see why you wouldn't want to do that again. Back in 2015, on his way home from work, David, a resident of the Garden State, says he captured something on his camera, and it's not something normal. So the resident of Little Egg Harbor Township was driving past a golf course on Route 9 when he spotted this monster. He told the local news it was around 6 p.m. and he was like, maybe it was a llama, because Sure, random llamas, folks. And as he got closer, he pulled out his camera and took a photo, because llamas on the side of a highway. Kind of funny. But then, apparently, this creature sprouted wings and took flight from the course it was hanging out on. So our witness said his heart was racing as he witnessed both incredible wonder and deep-seated nightmarish thoughts while capturing the footage. Now, apparently this photo was not photoshopped. It wasn't staged. And he's like, a lot of people said it's fake. He's like, I'm just looking for an explanation as to what I saw. So he did take a number of photos, because when you take out your phone, you're like, click, 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 click. But only one of them clearly showed the devilish demon as described in dozens of stories. The photo showed a creature with dark brown fur, wings on its back, and cloven feet. He described it as large, about a flying mammal the size of a deer. Well, if you look at the photo, you can clearly see wings on the creature's back, horns on its head, its feet are correct, and the fur is dark brown, and it's off the ground. Look, I don't see any wires or string holding it up like a piñata. So after his encounter, the witness said he stared at the photo for an hour. He was trying to come up with any kind of explanation for the image he had captured, and he came up with nothing. So going off of that cell phone statement, we've all got them these days, which means we got a lot of footage, and we've got time for one more clip. It starts off perfectly innocent, showing a girl and her friend laughing together in a bedroom. In fact, the woman who filmed it didn't notice anything strange about it until she sent it to a friend, and they were like, hey, what's that burnt red-faced demon behind you? So the clip made its way to Reddit, and the caption was, something with a red face came up behind my friend. She was hanging out, there was nobody else in the room with her, and it randomly shows up behind the girl on the left's head. The poster also said it was a demon maybe, or something, because like lots of bad stuff was happening at her house and sad stuff with the family. So it happens very quickly. It only appears in the last second of the video. But someone brought the clip to YouTube, where they analyzed it, slowed it down, and you could really see the creepy figure. Commenters on the video were disturbed. Somebody was like, dang, that is some scary S-H-I-T. You can see it rising behind the girl. Or, oh my god, it's Freddy Krueger. And Reddit was like, that scared me. Regretting watching that late at night. Yeah, I had regrets too. A Canadian nature lover's attempt to capture wildlife on camera backfired very terrifyingly after she inadvertently documented what appeared to be nude witches eating an animal carcass at night right by her house. She's like, I don't know what the heck was up with that. Her name is Cornea Stanhope, and she told Kennedy News of the spine-tingling sight. She's like, it really freaked us out. It's not something you see every day. The Powell River native had reportedly been riding one of her horses when she came across a dead deer in her garden. While most folks might have turned their nose up at the sight, the mother and her grandpa Bob, 76, decided to set up a camera to see if it would attract any critters, just for funsies. Well, the next day she checks in, and grandpa said he'd gotten nude people on camera, and she's like, no you didn't, BS. So we showed her. Well, these bone-chilling photos, taken just after sunset, showed two disheveled looking women with long black hair obscuring their faces, squatting over the dead deer and appearing to dine on its remains. The wicked hungry pair are completely in the nude, minus what looks like loincloths over their nether regions, in what looks like found footage horror film-esque sort of photos. It looks like they have wigs on, said Stanhope. One looks like she has maybe blonde hair underneath. She's like, you can't really tell from the photos, but the hoof was brought right up to her mouth. Our poor witness said she wasn't sure if the so-called witches were kissing it, smelling, or eating it, but she was nevertheless sickened by the ritual, given the amount of bacteria that was probably on the decaying carcass. She said she was especially creeped out because the impromptu cuddling session occurred only 2 minutes from her house. She's like, I was concerned about them messing with my horses at night. Apparently the horses always get really spooked and unnerved around that area, and horses are pretty prone to being able to be in tune with things. She said, I thought they imagined stuff at first, so she didn't think anything of it, but now she believes them. Social media seemed concerned that the Canadian had witnessed witches, a local cult, or some other malevolent entity performing a demonic ritual. This is actually terrifying, commented one viewer. Well, another was like, that's an S-walker. They look humans, so you come up to them, and once you do, you're gone. And that's basically a walking demon from hell, said a third. If you hear screaming, stay inside, get a weapon, leave it alone. Some commenters suggested they were part of some, demonic cult, and I believe them. Back in 2021, Australia's ABC network was playing a routine news telecast when the anchor was taken by surprise as an unexpected satanic clip played during a switch of visuals. The anchor in question, Yvonne Young, was presenting a story about Queensland's proposal to make killing of police horses or dogs a criminal offense. Her narration was visually cut by a frame of 3 officers walking, then it pans back to her. Pretty typical, right? Well, a few seconds later, her narration once again gets interrupted by a change of visuals, but this time the network played a satanic ritual on screen during the live telecast. In that scene of just a few seconds, a man can be seen standing in a black robe. Another person is seen standing beside the robe-clad person, and then there's somebody seen sitting next to a keyboard. There's also an upside-down cross in one corner of the room. The whole clip of the satanic ritual played for only a couple of seconds, but was caught by another media house. Also, the man in the black robe can be heard saying, "Hail Satan." The producers realized the mistake and immediately cut the feed, bringing the anchor back on screen. Poor thing stayed silent for a couple of seconds, then quickly started introducing another story, kind of awkwardly. But can you blame her? Some folks believe the people from the visual were members of the Noosa Temple of Satan that at the time was protesting against Queensland's education department regarding religious instruction classes in schools. Meanwhile, the temple themselves retweeted the clip with the caption saying, "Satan works in mysterious ways. I don't want to know." American professional boxer Ryan Garcia recently alleged that Bohemian Grove, which is a place that exists north of San Francisco, is very much real, and it is an elite club where he reportedly witnessed some really heinous stuff we're not supposed to talk about on the internet. He claimed this during an X-Space hangout with Andrew Tate on March 5th earlier this year, and in the wake of his allegations, a video went viral that showed an alleged satanic ritual performed at Bohemian Grove. The video was reportedly leaked back in the year 2000 by prominent conspiracy theorist and radio show host Alex Jones, who allegedly infiltrated the Bohemian Grove around the same time after being denied entry multiple times. Well, the visual is kind of hazy, audio's a little unclear, some of the ritual was ongoing with fireworks, cloaked priests, and there's a lot of speculation about alleged satanic ceremonies that have emerged. Additionally, Alex Jones's interview on the Joe Rogan Experience has also gone viral, where he claims that when he trespassed the Grove 2 decades back, he saw effigies being burnt in front of a large owl shrine, further fueling the alleged satanic ritual speculation. While the Bohemian Club website refutes the claims of secret and illegal affairs going on, or heck even the existence of things, a 2011 article in the Washington Post revealed that the members of the Manhattan Project met there regularly back in the 1940s, and that should alarm you. A mysterious snippet of footage showing people wearing black robes making a human sacrifice in front of a Shiva statue at the CERN, or European Organization for Nuclear Research campus, was posted on YouTube back in 2016 to a lot of debate. Well, a lot of folks were like, it's fake, it's staged. It's been confirmed that the video was indeed filmed at the CERN campus, and these cloaked figures are allegedly CERN researchers performing a satanic human sacrifice at the Large Hadron Collider. So CERN is a highly protected, restricted area with a lot of security gates and CCTV cameras. Another mysterious piece of information is the man who was filming the incident. Despite him freaking out seeing the alleged sacrifice, his reflection on the window pane shows he was wearing the same cloak as everybody else. Creepy. Finally for today, Python cowboy Mike Kimmel appeared on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast on August 11th of last year to share a crazy story about stumbling across what looked to be the aftermath of a ritual deep in the Everglades. So he was hunting invasive pythons at the time. And by the way, if you scroll his Instagram long enough, you're gonna see videos of him rescuing raccoons, saving law-abiding alligators from python death grips. He knows what he's talking about. Some of his posts border on full-blown PDA for his hunting dogs. He also shares pictures from guided hunts with clients. He's the real deal. However, his strangest post of all is about the time he came across some peculiar litter around an infamous abandoned Aerojet rocket test facility one night in April of 2019. Kimmel has spent countless hours chasing invasives around this area of the Everglades, and he had to investigate. First, he says he spotted dolls that had their eyes gored out and inverted crosses across their forehead. Then it turned into Latin graffiti sprayed in red paint and a wooden cross stuck in a giant rock pile. The situation really devolved when he climbed up the rock pile and came across a small scarlet snake wrapped around the neck of yet another doll. This snake was still alive, and it was leaking redness from its rear end. Now, according to him, it's rare to find a snake in this area, and it's really weird that it's wrapped around the doll, and also the whole redness thing. The snake's maybe a foot long. It's tiny. Kimmel said he's caught thousands of snakes in his life. None of them have ever been leaking redness out of their rear like that. By this point, he's a little freaked out. Dolls with no eyeballs and a little graffiti is one thing, but a live animal in anguish takes this beyond any kind of silly prank. He said as he was leaving that rock pile, there was a huge spray-painted phrase on the asphalt, maybe 50 feet long, and it was translated to, "He's watching, turn around, run, hide." So he moved further into the main building of the complex, and the more he investigated, the weirder it got. He found a 50-foot spray-painted pentagram with a 3-legged chair in the middle, with a big red stain, like something was sacrificed there. On the walls there were more Latin sayings with upside-down crosses. In another room there was a little nightgown, and he thinks it was spray-painted red, but it was supposed to look like it was covered in bad fluids. There was a lot of phrases on the wall that were talking about sacrificing a human to the devil, and in one of the rooms that he couldn't gain access to, he could tell through a busted-out window that there was a sleeping bag in there, something stuffed inside, and that's when he was like, I'm out of here. Later on, when he got home, he started researching the facility. The man who built it was named Marvel Jack Whiteside Parsons, a Caltech rocket scientist and the co-founder, obviously. He was a known Thelemite occultist, meaning he practiced the Thelema spiritual philosophy and new religion founded in the early 1900s. Now, this isn't directly linked to Satanism, but he was known to conduct rituals summoning goddesses with Scientology founder Ron Hubbard. Enough said. Gettysburg battlefield is an important important Civil War historical site, and a ghost hunter's paradise. You don't become one of the most haunted places in all of the United States for nothing, and visitors to the site have reported a whole series of experiences over the years. But is the battlefield actually haunted by the souls of past soldiers, or is it more paranoia? Well, allow me to elaborate. On a site known as a hotspot for ghost sightings is the wheat field, which saw some of the most brutal fighting in the battle, with 30% of the soldiers involved passing away. So it's not surprising that a lot of people have claimed to see the ghosts of soldiers here, still running around like they're still in battle. Looking to go even further and catch a ghost on camera was YouTuber Pulp Video, who set up a hidden camera to film the location overnight. And after coming through hours and hours and hours of footage, the account uploaded a 33-second clip, which it has some paranormal activity. Throughout this clip, footsteps can be heard, and we don't think anybody was present when it was filming. Also, when you're looking at the clip the first time, it looks fine. But after you rewatch it, like multiple times, and you pay attention to the background in the center, there appears to be a figure moving at about 26 seconds in, just before a flash of light can be seen. Sure, yes, there might be some skeptics out there being like, come on Alexa, this looks fake. There's plenty of other videos to back up the argument that this area is majorly haunted. There's another chilling clip captured by Greg Euling, who saw a lot of ghostly figures running about the fields. He said, then we saw these shapes moving in the darkness. They were the size of humans. One of them ran right through the cannon. Liv, known as @StayGoldenPonyBoy on TikTok, turns to an unlikely source for advice on dating or what to wear out. The ghost of a college-aged fraternity brother whom she calls Chad.
So Chad, can you turn off the flashlight? 3, 2, 1, turn off. Okay.
Liv has mentioned in interviews that from a very young age, she was really into the paranormal. She grew up in San Francisco, and the house she grew up in was haunted. Or that's what her mother told her. She would see an old woman in the basement of that house that her parents couldn't see. She'd be like, don't you see that old woman? She's standing in front of the closet. Now, eventually her parents were like, hey, I'm gonna talk to the landlord. They asked, and the landlord was like, oh, my mother died in that house, and I keep some of her stuff there. No biggie. Now, Liv's great-grandmother passed away, and 2 months after she did, Liv started seeing her in the house as well, and it made her mom upset because it was her grandmother, and she'd be like, she's not really here. But then Liv was like, well, I think I'm kind of in tune with something spiritual. And as she got older, it kind of went away until college, until Chad. Liv first encountered this spirit friend in Boston, where she and her roommate accidentally manifested a spirit inside their old Back Bay brownstone. After noticing paranormal activity, the freezer door opening by itself, misplaced items, the record player turning on at random, the roommates named the friendly ghost Chad. After moving to LA and investing in ghost hunting equipment, Liv was able to confirm that Chad had moved with her. Now, almost, 5 years or more after meeting him, Liv shares little snippets of her hangouts with Chad, her beloved chatting sessions, to her almost 200,000 followers on TikTok.
Chad, can you say hi, hello, what's up? I just heard hi, Olivia.
She said that she was hearing footsteps in her bedroom when she moved to LA, and she was catching up on a vibe that something was going on. She described it as the whole feeling where it feels like something's watching you. She said she could feel eyes on herself, so then she bought the ghost hunting equipment because she was like, okay, I want to go with my friends, let's go looking. But then as soon as she got the equipment, she started testing it out in her apartment, and that's when Chad came through and was like, hey, it's me. So when we're talking about equipment, you're probably asking, what does she use to communicate with them? She uses a twist-on, twist-off flashlight. So you turn on the flashlight, not fully on, and that allows her spirits to go up and tap it. If they tap it, the light turns on. She also uses dowsing rods or divination rods. Sometimes she mentions that it's really wild when she holds it because she can feel the ends being pushed, like she can really feel somebody touching it. She's watched a lot of Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans, love, and she has since acquired a spirit box and a REM pod. So when people were talking in her TikTok comment section, she was like, yep, we're doing it. She has mentioned that it is the same voice that comes through all the time, so it's very obviously Chad speaking through. It is a younger male voice. Every once in a while though, they do get a guest female voice that pops in to say hello. And what she finds super crazy is just the consistency behind each session, even when she's doing it off camera. Speaking of Zach, so he's been turning up the heat with some paranormal passion, because earlier this year, he was busy conjuring up the spirit of a haunted business's former madam, and the proof that he captured is kind of saucy. So back in May, there was an episode that aired where Zach goes goes to this Utah place of former body selling business, and he tries to lure its long deceased madam named Rose with a little cold hard cash. And then what happened next was kind of hilarious. I think we have the clip, so I'll let you watch it now. As you can see in the footage, Zach gets comfy on the bed waiting for Rose's spirit, but when she literally ghosts him, he calls in his buddy, Aaron Goodwin. He's like, okay, why don't you try it, take over for me. And it looks like Rose liked the idea. So their camera captured what they said was a human figure at the foot of the bed reaching for the money, and then all of a sudden Aaron found himself in a ghostly embrace because the figure actually mounted his body, leaving everybody else giggling uncontrollably. Rightfully so. Zach told TMZ that he was awkwardly excited to see the movements of the spirit figure, to first see the spirit appear to grab the money, then fully mount my friend while grabbing the headboard, and then completely vanish after the business was done was incredible. He mentioned that they had never captured a scene like that in the history of the show, and he mentioned I'm still a little offended that I was turned down by the madam, but alright. Oliver Tatham and his sister Rebecca visited the grounds of Coombe Abbey for the Illuminate Light Trail before Christmas of last year with their granddad Eric. Now, Mr. Tatham was like, I'm gonna tell all my, young ones to look out for ghosts while they're walking the trail, just for funsies. Well, Oliver took the challenge seriously. He carefully checked out each window of the building. Suddenly, something unusual caught his eye. In one of the first floor windows, Oliver saw a woman standing very still. He said she looked as though she was wearing Victorian-style clothes with a white cap and apron over a black dress. Oliver said, when I saw this strange figure looking out of the window, staring at the garden, I took a photo on my mom's phone, which I was using to take pictures of the lights. I zoomed in as far as I could, and she was much clearer to my eye than in the photo. Oliver then called over his mom and his sister to look at it, and as he was doing so, the figure didn't move, but then she just suddenly disappeared. So, we've got Oliver and his granddad, and they researched Coombe Abbey ghosts when they got home, and they came across the sad story of Matilda, a former maid at the Abbey when it was home to the Craven family. Now, it's not the first time that it's been claimed that Matilda has been captured on camera. Investigators who visited in 2018 claimed to have seen a number of apparitions, including their very own image of Matilda. Now we just gotta wait on that video footage. And finally for today, producers of British ghost hunter show Most Haunted have spent 17 years, if not more, trying to capture footage of a proper, real specter. And back in 2017, they succeeded. Members of the TV crew were reduced to fearful tears after they spotted and managed to get on camera a transparent, ghostly figure ascending some stairs at an abandoned 17th century mansion in Yorkshire. The spine-tingling clip shows what appears to be a paranormal figure walking very slowly down a dark corridor at Wentworth House in South Yorkshire. So the TV show was at the mansion investigating reports of a ghostly presence inside the stable block, following dozens of unexplained sightings. Investigators Carl Beatty and Stuart Torvell managed to record the figure before chasing it down the hallway as it disappeared from view. Host Yvette Fielding was left sobbing after watching the clip and said the video was the show's most groundbreaking footage to date. She said, in the 17 years we've been doing Most Haunted, we've always wanted to capture a ghost on camera. We've got so many different kinds of phenomena, objects moving on their own, voices, but this is the first time that we've caught a man walking in what appears to be slow motion up the stairs. She said it was only when we edited it that I saw it and I burst into tears. I was properly sobbing. So, the Reverend Joseph Easterbrook, the Anglican vicar of Temple Church, was summoned on Saturday the 31st of May of 1778 by a Mrs. Sarah Barber, a woman who was traveling in the village of Yatton Mendip in the county of Somerset. Now the woman told the pastor that she came across a man by the name of George Lukins, a tailor and common carrier by profession who had a strange sickness, if you will, in which he sang and screamed in various sounds, some of which did not resemble a human voice, and declared that doctors could do him no service. Now, Mrs. Barber attested to the clergyman that George had an extraordinary good character and attended services of worship, where he had received the church sacraments, so all around a good guy. However, for the past 18 years, he had been subject to a lot of fits, which somebody believed resulted from a supernatural slap, which knocked him down while he was acting in a Christmas pageant of all things. Now, he was consequently taken under the care of Dr. Smith, among many other physicians who really tried to help him, but sadly after his 20-week stay at St. George's Hospital, the medical community there pronounced him incurable. Now, members of the community began to think that he was bewitched, and he himself declared that he was possessed by 7 demons, who could only be driven out by, well, 7 clergymen. So Reverend Joseph Easterbrook contacted Methodist ministers in connection with all of this, who agreed to pray for George. Now, we do have a quote from one of the reverends involved in the exorcisms, a Reverend John Valton. He said that some time ago I had a letter requesting me to make one of the 7 ministers to pray over George. I cried out before God, Lord, I am not fit for such a work. I have not faith to encounter a demon. It was powerfully applied. God in thy might. The day before we were to meet, I went to see George and found such faith that I could then encounter the 7 devils which he said tormented him. I did not doubt but deliverance would come. Suffice to say, when we met, The Lord heard prayer and delivered the poor man. So an account of the exorcism was actually published in the Bristol Gazette. The newspaper reported that George, during his possession, claimed he was the devil, made barking noises, sung an inverted song, and was just overall very violent. And in light of these claims, on Friday the 13th of June of 1778, 7 clergymen, including the Reverend Joseph Easterbrook, accompanied George to the vestry at Temple Church, where they performed an exorcism on the man, which included hymn singing, prayer, all the usual stuff. The deliverance concluded when the demons were allegedly cast out using the Trinitarian formula. The clergyman commanded the demons to return to hell, and George then exclaimed, "Blessed Jesus," praised God, recited the Lord's Prayer, and then thanked the clergyman. Now, Reverend Easterbrook, when recording the events under the patronage of John Wellesley, stated that the account would be doubted in this modern era of skepticism, but pointed to the scriptures and other authentic history of ancient as well as modern times to really exclaim what he felt was a valid case of demonic possession. Once again, after the exorcism, George was calm and happy. Now, following this case, several pieces of literature were printed on this entire situation, thus popularizing this case of diabolical possession, despite the original plans to keep it kind of quiet, for George's sake. In the spring of 1842, Pastor Johann Christoph Blumhardt was advised by his parishioners to investigate the strange goings-on at the home of the Ditis siblings. Orphaned and bereaved of several other siblings as well, 4 of them, Gottlieben, Anna Maria, Katharina, and another, lived together in a tumble-down house under the conditions of extreme poverty. But that wasn't the primary target of concern. It was the noises, the strange lights, and above all, the strange behavior of, I'm going to call her G, that called for further examination. Now, when he arrived at the place, G didn't really respond warmly to the pastor's friendly overtures. He let her be, but then neighbors were still complaining. She fell down, she fell ill, the noises in the house were so loud they kept them up at night. So Johann told the siblings to stay with a relative overnight, while he and trusted members of the congregation searched the house. And that's where they found a lot of weird stuff, and his fears were confirmed. They found evidence of dabbling in occult magic, and oh bother. Now, further inquiry revealed that G's early life had been filled with attempted initiations into such dark traffic at, well, why? Her elders did it. Spiritualist studies weren't really unknown at the time, and reputable figures investigated a lot of reports of poltergeists, conversations with the dead, spirits of all kinds. It's kind of commonplace. Johann was, determined. He decided to try and pray and place his trust in the Lord. But things didn't get better for G. If anything, they got worse, especially when Johann came near. She fainted, she shook, she foamed at the mouth in delirious fits, then she would come to and appear and, well, be sane, I guess, for all intents and purposes. Johann eventually became convinced that whatever was at work was in fact the devil, or a devilish spirit. One night in late June, G once again fell into a trance. Now this time, Johann grabbed her hand, shouted into her ear, "Place your hands together and pray. Lord Jesus, help me. We have seen long enough what the devil can do. Now we desire to see also what Jesus can do." And somehow, G regained consciousness, joined the pastor in prayer, and settled down again. And from then on, Johann's strategy didn't vary. He kept her company. He prayed with her. He invited her to pray as well. The prayers were simple and spontaneous. If the spirits tried to talk to Johann, he told them to keep silent. If they refused, he left. But here's the thing. G continued to suffer attacks, and they increased in scale and severity. She pummeled herself, yanked out her own hair, spat as if trying to purge from within, lost weight to a dangerous degree. It got really bad. She would hemorrhage, and she would attribute the wounds to spirits. Almost a year after the pastor's first visit, she began to upchuck objects. We're talking sand, nails, shoelaces, pins, and then they came out through her skin, but they would leave no wound. By Christmas of 1843, this struggle had lasted for almost 2 years, and by the end of that year, G wasn't the only one dealing with demonic harm. Her sister, Katharina, her brother, all struggling as well. As usual, Johann went to sit with them. He prayed with them and for them. Katharina was in such a state that she was trying to tear herself to pieces, but then, at about 2 in the morning, she let a loud noise, loud enough to shake the house, doubled over backward, and then shouted, "Jesus is victor!" And so he was. Somehow, the evil spirits were defeated. With that cry of defeat and, joy, I suppose, the demons were broken, as were the spell that had been held over the entire family. All the alarming manifestations stopped, and G and her sisters and brothers were back to being themselves again. So the next story. The whispers started in April of 2003 in the mind of this 23-year-old nun. In the heart of an Orthodox convent in Romania's impoverished northeast, doctors say Marisisia Irina Cornici believed she heard the devil talking to her. telling her she was sinful. Now, originally she was treated for schizophrenia, but when she relapsed, a monk and 4 nuns tried a different method: exorcism. Now, in order to restrain her from violent movements, including those causing her to harm herself, the nuns bound her hand and feet and locked her in her room as they participated in the liturgy commemorating the ascension of Jesus. A few days later, they chained her to a cross with her arms stretched out and carried her into the church so that they could anoint her. Well, by the way, on top of this bad stuff earlier, she was gagged with a towel and left in a really dank room at the convent for 3 days without food, where, well, she died of dehydration. So originally, when she was moved to her room, she was untied and she was cured. She was given bread and tea, but when she fainted after eating, the nuns couldn't awaken her, and when they felt that her pulse was weak, they called an ambulance. Well, in the ambulance, she was given about 6 doses of adrenaline, so by the time she reached the hospital, she was gone from us. The police were notified by the doctors at the hospital, who noticed the marks that were left from all the restraining. The autopsy claimed that she had passed from dehydration, exhaustion, and a lack of oxygen. Now, the father and the 4 nuns who had helped with this exorcism were charged with death and depriving a person of liberty. Prosecutors sought a life sentence for the priest, but he was sentenced in 2007 to 14 years in prison, while the nuns got 5 to 8 years. So next up, this rare and disturbing footage has been released of a woman writhing around on the floor and screaming as an exorcism is performed on her over in Argentina. The 22-year-old woman, identified only by her first name Laura, is pinned to the ground as Bishop Manuel Acuna drives the evil spirits out of her. As she screams "no, no" and spits some really bad words out at one of the women holding her, the bishop is heard muttering, leave her now." Now, before the exorcism, locals gathered at the church in Buenos Aires praying for her soul and redemption. The bishop told them the demon exists. Laura was then led into a chamber where church helpers held her to the ground. Local man Augustus Amador Arevalo, who had gone to pray for her, said, "We could hear her screaming and crying as we prayed for her deliverance. Apparently she was like a good person, but when the devil possessed her, yikes. She had to be exorcised. She had to be set free." The exorcism came to an end as she suddenly gave out like a really weird cry and then closes her eyes, falls backwards, exhausted, wiping away tears as the priest once again made the sign of the cross over her body. And the bishop said she was good. He said, "Thank God, we've recovered a daughter of God." And finally for today, back in the 1970s, Michael Taylor was kind of an ordinary guy over in Yorkshire. He, his wife Christine, their offspring, and their pet poodle lived really happy lives. And now we're gonna pop that bubble. In 1974, Christine stated to a Christian fellowship group, to which they both belonged, that his relationship with the leader of the group, Marie Robinson, was carnal in nature. Michael admitted that he felt evil within him, and eventually attacked Marie verbally, who screamed back at him. Marie said that his eyes began to change to something bestial, and then he started to speak in tongues. Michael had no memory of the event, something all too common in cases of possession. Now, during the next meeting, he received an absolution, but his behavior continued to become more erratic. So as a result, the local vicar called in other ministers, experienced in deliverance in preparation to cast out the demons residing within the man. Now, this exorcism, which occurred between the 5th and 6th of October of 1974 at St. Thomas's Church in Gobber, was led by Father Peter Vincent, who was the Anglican priest of St. Thomas's, and was helped out by a Methodist clergyman, the Reverend Raymond Smith. Over the next 8 hours, Michael would repeatedly have crucifixes stuffed inside of his mouth while being doused with holy water. Now, according to Bill Ellis, an authority on folklore and the occult in contemporary culture, the exorcists believed that they had, in an all-night ceremony, invoked and cast out at least 40 demons, including those of, well, some really bad stuff, blasphemy, bestiality, and lewdness. In the end, exhausted, they allowed Taylor to go home, but they were like, we think he still has some demons. Well, go figure. While at home, he brutally ended the life of his wife, Christine, by attacking her with his bare hands, tearing some body parts out and almost tearing her face off. He was eventually found by a policeman, completely nude in the street and covered in red fluid. Well, at his trial, he was acquitted on the grounds of insanity and was sent to the Broadmoor Hospital for 2 years, then spent another 2 years in a secure ward in Bradford before being released.
First up, we have Incubus. This dark demon is said to take on the appearance of a male human who tries to impregnate unsuspecting women while they are asleep. Now, the goal of Incubus is to use his unsuspecting victims to birth demons and witches in order to create more servants of hell and devil worshippers. The word incubus is actually derived from the Latin language and directly translates to nightmare. So keeping that in mind, it only makes sense that this demon would appear in the shadows of the night to prey on his victims. It is not known how many dark beings Incubus could have fathered, but it is believed that the famous magician Merlin was actually created by Incubus. Many people believe that Merlin would actually spread dark magic in the towns that he traveled traveled to while he was under the demon's control. Now, some people also believe that this demon has actually been summoned through a Ouija board on multiple occasions. There are many stories of people finding their partners alone in bed, doing some unspeakable acts by themselves. It also appears that any woman who has been a victim of Incubus has no recollection of the events that led to their eventual pregnancy. And once a Ouija board has been used to summon Incubus, it is incredibly hard to get rid of him. This is not as simple as opening a door and kicking someone out of your house when you want them to leave. Some of the oldest tricks that were used in the medieval era include covering your bed in black salt and burning special types of incense that Incubus really doesn't like. So unless you want to have a very disgusting visitor arrive in your home, the Incubus is one demon you should never activate with a Ouija board. So do you believe that Ouija boards are as dangerous as people claim? Give us your thoughts in the comments down below as we check out some more demons. Next up is Beelzebub. This demon is viewed as many different things by many different people, which brings up the possibility that it could be a real-life shapeshifter. Now, most demons have a clear goal that they want to achieve, and they have various ways of manipulating their victims in order to obtain what they want. Beelzebub loosely translates to Lord of the Flies, which has led many to believe that this demon could very well take on the appearance of a small insect. However, other stories have described Beelzebub as a large demon that actually commands a huge army of insect-like creatures. It is said that Beelzebub uses its many servants to cause destruction and wreak havoc on Earth through violent attacks. These servants are generally regarded as scum and excrement that are lurking in the deepest depths of the underworld. Some religious figures even believe that these servants are damned souls who are forced to carry out their Lord's dirty work for the rest of eternity. The Catholic Church especially fears Beelzebub, as he is even mentioned in the Bible. The scribes in Mark 3:22 have actually accused Jesus Christ himself of working directly with Beelzebub. Some believe that the Lord of the Flies was banishing evil spirits away from Earth on Jesus' orders so he could gain even more servants. Now, anything that commands an army of evil spirits and has the ability to shapeshift should not be taken lightly. Summoning Beelzebub with a Ouija board can enrage the demon and cause it to take over your day-to-day life. There have been reports of Beelzebub appearing in homes as a large dark mass that is most active at night. Other smaller paranormal events are likely the work of his minions, but this is one demon you do not want to mess around with. After that, we have Antoine Gay. This one may not sound as terrifying as a traditional demon, but it could be even more dangerous. Antoine Gay started out life as an ordinary human being, but he is infamously known as being one of the strongest cases of demonic possession to this very day. Antoine was a Frenchman who served in the military in the 1800s before becoming a carpenter in the city of Lyon. He then decided he wanted to begin the process of becoming a monk and was accepted as a lay brother at his local abbey. Now, things took a strange turn for him, however, when he shockingly decided to leave the church due to a complete nervous disorder. His sudden mood swings and his unexplained conditions quickly started to raise concerns that he had been possessed by a demon. He was examined by priests and other religious figures who reported that Gay spoke in a much deeper tone and began to share dark secrets of his life. He also started speaking in perfect Latin without ever studying the language or having any knowledge of it. Now, religious figures named the demon that had possessed Antoine Isacaro, but not much was known about the demon or its intentions beyond its name. Antoine Gay eventually passed away in the late 1800s due to various complications that priests believe were linked to the demon who had possessed him. But nowadays, there are people who are convinced that Antoine Gay is still inhabiting our world as an evil entity. There are rumors that Isacaro had passed its energy onto Antoine when he passed away, and he is now tormenting other souls all around the world. However, because of the mystery surrounding the original demon, no one is really sure how to stop it. Ouija boards are likely the easiest way to summon it, but there is no reason why anyone should even attempt to do that. Next on our list is Baphomet. This demon is another direct servant of Satan who was mentioned in texts as far back as the 11th century. He is described as a large winged beast with a goat head and a human-like body. Many paintings also show the words dissolve and coagulate tattooed on the demon's arms. Now, this seems a little strange at first until you realize the main purpose of this demonic figure. Many believe that Satan had originally summoned Baphomet to destroy religion from the inside out. He would manipulate humans on Earth to carry out some evil deeds and spread the word that religion was very bad for the soul. Of course, Baphomet needed a large following of loyal servants who would help him in his quest, and he didn't have a tough time finding them. The infamous Knights Templar that existed between the 12th and 14th centuries were apparently the main followers and direct servants of Baphomet. They would supposedly carry out all sorts of anti-Catholic rituals and actions, which included spitting on the cross. While the Knights were technically a military order that was supposedly fighting alongside the Catholic Church, some believe that they were actually fighting against it. Many people started to question the Templars' faith in the early 1300s, and some were convinced that they were worshipping demons. Then in 1307, it was King Philip IV who ordered the majority of the knights to be arrested for worshipping Baphomet. This led to the of many members and the complete dissolution of the order. But if you thought that spelled the end of Baphomet altogether, then you would be very, very wrong. There are many anti-religious groups that still exist today, and many believe that they are actively summoning Baphomet to carry out their orders. While many evil spirits are keen on working with this terrifying demon, others are still actively fighting to banish him forever. And finally we have Lucifer. Now this evil figure is actually a fallen angel who is now believed to be the demon of pride. Now because pride is one of the 7 deadly sins, Lucifer's actions have resulted in him being labeled a demon by many in the Catholic Church. It is said that Lucifer was actually one of God's greatest creations, and many regarded him as a true son of God. While Lucifer was gifted a throne by God himself and was placed in the Garden of Eden to enlighten humans, his own self-pride eventually got the better of him. After witnessing the creation of Adam and Eve, Lucifer was ordered to bow to the original pair of humans. But in a defiant move of power, Lucifer declared that his creation was far superior and he refused to bow to Adam and Eve. Now some believe that Lucifer was incredibly brave to rebel against his creator, but God was not interested in hearing his argument. Lucifer was banished from heaven for his actions and is regarded as the first sinner for putting his own self-pride before God. His appearance as an angel quickly transformed into a demon who convinces people to develop egos. It is believed by many in the Catholic Church and others that egotistical people are the works of Lucifer himself as he leads them to their inevitable downfall. While many demons could be considered more dangerous due to their violent natures, Lucifer could actually be the most cunning of them all. His slow and steady manipulation of a person's ego can lead to some terrible choices in life that can have irreversible consequences. The estimated number of victims who have been manipulated by Lucifer throughout history is well into the millions. Summoning this entity through a Ouija board might not have an immediate impact on a person's life, but it will slowly crush them over time. There are definitely ways to fix a person who is possessed by Lucifer, but you'd be better off just keeping him far away from any Ouija boards.
Number 5. Annabelle. Well, it just would not be the Warrens without Annabelle. She's easily the most famous thing in their collection, and let's be real, she's probably one of the most famous dolls on the planet. You know, Barbie, Annabelle. Do you ever wonder if they ever thank her for all the good publicity she's given them? By now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, you know the story of Annabelle, the haunted doll that they kept captive, but I'll run it by you again in case you don't. It was given to a nursing student as a gift from her mother, and within days, things started getting scary. Notes would appear around the house scrawled in red liquid that read out terrifying messages like, "Help me." Allegedly lunged at the girl's boyfriend one night, and well, after a doll comes alive and lunges at you, you call some help, and then Ed and Lorraine were called in to exorcise the demon inside Annabelle. In the end, they keep her locked up very tight, surrounded by rosaries and holy water to ensure the demon inside can't harm anyone anymore, and they keep her locked up except when they wheel her out for publicity events and take her to conventions. While Annabelle has enjoyed quite the career as a movie star, the real Annabelle is locked away to keep the evil dormant. In this footage, we're treated to some up close and personal glamour shots of Annabelle in the flesh, or stuffing, I guess, locked tight in her cage. The footage comes from Tony Spera, the son-in-law of Ed and Lorraine Warren, who's gonna get mentioned a whole heck of a lot in this video. He takes us on a brief tour of the museum, getting a real up close to it. Even through a YouTube screen, you can feel some evil radiating off this doll. Now sadly, if you're a big Warren superfan and you want to go check out the museum, unfortunately it's closed right now, but they are hoping to reopen it. So one day Annabelle can get back to scaring her fans in person like she always has. When I said before that they take her out to conventions, that wasn't just me being snarky, it's real. She just recently was at the Warrens Paracon, the convention dedicated to supernatural hunters of the paranormal. You can line up, take a photo with Annabelle. I'm not sure if I'd take a selfie with her though. I don't know. It might look good on a Tinder profile, maybe? I'm not sure. And if you're looking for way more Ed and Lorraine content, true tales of terror, fake fibs of frauds, cryptids, ghosts, ghouls, goblins, aliens, pretty much anything scary under the sun and above it, well, you already know Top 5 Scary is the place for that. Make sure you stay subscribed. Please ring that little bell to the side so you get all of our videos when they upload. But do that at the end of this video, okay? Because I got 4 more pieces of Ed and Lorraine footage coming up for you right now, baby. Number 4, the museum tour. Now, if you wanted to go to the world's foremost collection of haunted relics and cursed objects, there's probably no storeroom full of curses more than the legendary collection of the Warrens' Haunted Museum of Souvenirs. Now, like I said just a second ago, the museum is currently closed as of the writing of this video, but they are trying to reopen soon. cross your fingers. But in the meantime, you can take a digital tour, as this footage posted by the Warrens' son-in-law, Tony Spera, shows Mr. Warren giving a guided tour of some of the more unique haunted artifacts resting in the Connecticut garage. Now, the full video, definitely worth a watch if you're a big fan of the Warrens, since it's as close as you'll be able to get to walking around the museum these days. It's a full half-hour long of old Ed going into grand detail and recounting some stories about some of their more notable and famous cases. Shoutouts include the witch Hannah Cranna, an old Connecticut legend, or the Conjuring Mirror, which might sound like it has something to do with the movie, but very confusingly refers to a case where someone used this mirror in a ritual to try and summon a demon, a different demon. Ed talks briefly on some of their many cursed dolls and toys, such as a dinosaur from the Devil Made Me Do It case and film, and of course, no visit to the Warrens Museum would exclude Annabelle. She's the star attraction of the place, probably what keeps the lights on for so long. She's shown under a tight lock and key, and Ed goes over the history of how they brought her in, and he touches briefly on the containment protocol for her, how she has to always be locked up in a storage box behind glass, surrounded by rosary beads and doused in holy water, in an effort to keep the vile spirits tucked away. A small question: if a spirit is so powerful and malevolent that it's got this unspeakable ancient evil that attacks humans, wouldn't it be stronger than a pane of glass? Wouldn't it be stronger than a thin little thing of glass? I guess it's a doll, but I didn't think the solution to ultimate evil was to just put like a fence around it. That's what you do when like a dog is getting into stuff that you don't want them to get into. You just fence them out a bit in the backyard. Dogs, haunted dolls. Okay. Number 3, the Shadow Doll. And coming in at the number 3 spot for today is going to be this footage of the Shadow Doll. When you first enter the Warrens' Haunted Museum, be it digitally or physically, one of the first things you'll see is this frightening little doll, affectionately dubbed the Shadow Doll. The Shadow Doll, that's fun to say. It's made of bird feathers and real human teeth. Lovely, those are some of my favorite ingredients. Now, it's currently owned by Tony Spera. He offers a bit of insight into the doll's history, saying it was originally acquired at an antique shop where it was sold with the owners of the shop completely oblivious to the doll's cursed energy. I don't buy that at all. What do you mean oblivious to the doll's cursed energy? Somebody came to you and sold you a doll made of bird feathers and human teeth, and your first instinct wasn't to douse the thing in holy water and kerosene for good measure? I know pawn shops ain't exactly the classiest place around, but you gotta have some standards, right? You gotta be able to recognize evil. There are very few dolls with human teeth that aren't evil. Spera claims the doll has an insidious curse inside it. Oh, wait, no, sorry, the Warrens weren't insidious. Anyway, the curse says that if you take a photograph of the doll, and when it develops, you write a curse that you'd like to inflict and then send it to your victim. The person who then opens the envelope and sees the photo of the doll will invite the curse into your home. The doll is also capable of some dream magic like Freddy Krueger, and can even stop your heart while you're asleep if Mr. Warren is to be believed. And I know what you might be thinking. Did you just curse all of us by showing us this footage and pictures of the doll? No, of course not. I toss a salt circle around the camera before I film anything just to make sure no residual curses pass through the internet. I will say though, I have heard some pretty credible rumors that you're more susceptible to be cursed if you don't like, comment, and subscribe after watching a video, so I honestly would say on the safe side of things, you should do that. And on another side note, having done a lot of research on the pair of these two, I cannot stress how many haunted dolls and toys these people had. They had like the world's scariest Toys R Us in their backyard. Number 2, Scotland City under the city. Now, the Warrens' investigations didn't just take them on cross-country road trips to the United States. The Warrens visited a ghost in almost every state they claim, and then some. The Warrens' quest saw them traveling all over the globe in an effort to uncover truths and combat evil wherever it was found. In this recently uncovered footage, we can see a unique perspective from Lorraine digging underground in the secret vaults beneath Edinburgh. Under the ground is a series of large, cavernous vaults that were once used as a storage space for merchants, but when abandoned, became home to Edinburgh's poorest, who began to make it their dwellings. Probably a real nice space, you know, no daylight, musty air, thriving rodent population, but you know what? For the right price, I would probably go for it. It's probably better than most apartments in Toronto. Because of this, the vaults were the perfect place to conduct a little nefarious business that aren't quite fit to discuss on YouTube, but naughty stuff, just know that. It's believed that 2 of Edinburgh's most prolific criminals hid bodies here before taking them to medical schools to sell off. Having known this, with this context, it's absolutely no surprise that people believe the vaults to be haunted, and claim that they feel watched or touched when walking through them. So, if there's something weird going on, the Warrens follow. This one's actually pretty cool footage, I gotta admit. It's first person, making you feel like you're exploring the subterranean depths with her. She's being guided by an old Scotsman who seems to know the tunnels pretty well, and I gotta say, if I ever take a tour of an underground vault, this is exactly who I would like to be taking me in. An old Scottish man. That's the most appropriate and trustworthy way to go ghost hunting. Now, they didn't find anything on this particular investigation, but while in there, Lorraine does claim that she can feel something communicating with her. Could it be spirits from long ago reaching out to Lorraine Warren, who claimed she had an extrasensory gift? Or maybe it was just kind of cold down there. And number 1, an exorcism. To some, the ultimate dream would be getting to ride up in the front seat with Warrens on one of their cases, getting to experience the paranormal firsthand under the tutelage of those who claim to have battled it their whole lives. It would be like if Obi-Wan Kenobi asked you if you want to go on an adventure with him. It'd be awesome. Well, hey, some people, they get to live their dreams every day. Like me, my dream was to stand in front of a camera and endlessly talk about ghosts and goblins, and it really is just the best. But a YouTuber by the name of Haley Reese got to live her dream when she met Tony Spera, the husband of Judy Warren, the daughter of the family, and Lorraine Warren, a bit before she passed away. She got blessed with a look into some never-before-seen footage of the pair of demonologists conducting fieldwork, namely an exorcism. Now, the person in the video has been blurred out to protect their safety, as, you know, it's one thing to be possessed by a demon, but doxing, whole other. We see Lorraine and Tony both fiercely conducting an exorcism, locked in spiritual warfare against a demonic force. We can hear Tony asking for the demon's name repeatedly, not because he's a friendly guy trying to make conversation, but because in order to properly drive a demon out of a host, you need to know its name. The name said, Beelzebub. Now, there is a little bit of a discrepancy whether or not Beelzebub and the devil are considered different entities, really depending on what book and depending on who you ask. Sometimes they are, sometimes they aren't. Either way, it's very bad news to have inside of you. Worst part is apparently that wasn't even the only demon inside there. It was like a clown car of demons inside one guy. Not enough room. Luckily, the pair was able to get all of the demons outside of them and banish them away. Does anyone wonder, does it leave like a weird taste in your mouth after you've had demonic possession? I feel like there's an aftertaste, you know? I definitely feel like I would need to brush my teeth afterwards, I think.
Number 5. The Incubus. One of the more taboo evil demons on this list is the Incubus, the male equivalent to a succubus. While a succubus is known for seducing sleeping men in order to impregnate themselves with ghostly children, the incubus comes into a woman's bed while she is asleep and impregnates her. She then carries the baby to term, giving birth to deformed witches, wizards, or demons. Not all of these offspring become evil, however, with the first legend of a wizard being fathered by an incubus actually being the legendary wizard who served King Arthur during the days of Camelot, Merlin. In the late 1400s, demonology text Malleus Maleficarum by the German Catholic clergyman Heinrich Kramer, the author talks about incubi and states that there are 5 ways to get rid of them: moving the afflicted woman to a different location, exorcism, sacramental confession, the sign of the cross, or excommunication of the attacking entity, which even the book itself admits is basically just another term for exorcism. If we are to believe Kramer's account, then incubi seem to be relatively easy demons to get rid of, being subject to all the usual tricks of the exorcist trade, and being able to be shaken by simply moving. But according to the works of the Franciscan friar Ludovico Maria Sinistari, they are much more difficult to deal with than the typical demon, with him saying that an incubus does not obey exorcists, they have no dread of exorcisms, show no reverence for holy things, and at the approach of which they are not in the least overawed. If this is true, then getting rid of an incubus could be a deeply traumatic and maybe even impossible task. Because we do not know which description of their strengths and weaknesses is the more accurate one, it is probably best to simply avoid any situations or rituals that could result in the summoning of an incubus, no matter how long of a dry spell you are dealing with, or how desperate you are becoming. Number 4. Mephistopheles. Mephistopheles, or Mephisto to his friends, is a demon who features prominently in German folklore. Although he has since become somewhat of a stock character, he is primarily known for the role he plays in the Faust legend. The Faust legend is inspired by the life of a real alchemist, astrologer, and magician named Johann Georg Faust, who lived in Germany during the late 1400s and early 1500s. It is unclear how closely Faust's life follows the legend it inspired, but the tale of his interactions with Mephistopheles have been passed down for centuries after his death. In the folk legend, Faust has become depressed with his life as a scholar and tries to take his own life. When the attempt fails, he calls on the devil, hoping to acquire magical powers that will allow him to indulge in all the earthly pleasures he can imagine. The devil then sends his representative, Mephistopheles, to make a deal with Faust. Faust and the demon broker a deal that will make Mephistopheles serve Faust with his powers for a set number of years. When that time is up, Mephisto will claim his soul and take Faust to hell, where he will be punished and forced to serve Satan for all of eternity. Faust uses Mephistopheles for a variety of purposes over the years, most famously to help him seduce a beautiful young maiden named Gretchen, with whom he has a child. When the child is born, Gretchen realizes the baby's unholy nature and throws the child into the waters, causing her to be arrested and executed for murder. Faust is corrupted and realizes his sins are unforgivable, and he is carried away to hell by Mephistopheles. True or not, the Faust legend has become deeply ingrained in culture, and despite the initial benefits Mephistopheles may present you with, he is not worth summoning. Number 3. The Popobawa. The Popobawa is one of the more recent demonic creatures on this list, with its first sightings being in 1965. The Popobawa is a Zanzibar legend, whose name literally translates to bat wings. This name is not a description of the creature's actual physical form, but rather a description of the large dark shadow that it casts during its attacks. Sightings of the creature have been reported periodically throughout the years in Zanzibar, with stories from the 70s, 80s, and reaching their peak in 1995, before taking a 5-year hiatus, and then being seen again in 2000 and 2007. One of the most popular explanations for this demonic creature is that a sheik man released a jinn in order to get revenge against his neighbors, but soon lost control of the jinn, who took to demonic ways. The Popobawa is described as a shapeshifter who takes many different forms, often switching from humanoid to animalistic shapes. It is known for being accompanied by a sulfuric odor, and it tends to visit homesteads at night and on rare occasions during the day. It is indiscriminate in its choice of victims, going from home to home and attacking all members of the family before engaging in physical attacks, poltergeist behavior, and most feared of all, forced sodomy. It then moves on to the next home in the community. Victims of Popobawa attacks are often encouraged to come forward with their story in order to get the community protection, in order to avoid repeat visits from the demonic creature. The creature apparently becomes enraged if their existence is denied, and during one incident in 1971 possessed a young girl who then spoke to a group of villagers in a deep man's voice to confirm its existence. If the Popobawa really does exist and attacks the people of Zanzibar, then he should obviously be avoided at all costs, as his style of attack would be not only painful and humiliating, but could have long-term effects on the sanity of his victims if he chose to return to make his attacks a consistent issue. This is one demonic force that there is no benefit to tangling with, and should be avoided as much as possible for both your own sake and that of everyone in your community. Number 2. Any of the demons in the Lesser Key of Solomon. The Lesser Key of Solomon is a grimoire compiled in the 17th century from materials that were already centuries old at the time of the book's original publication. The volume is divided into 5 books, and one of which contains instructions on how to grant the practicing magician an eidetic memory and the ability to instantly learn materials. Another of the books teaches the user how to contact angels using a wax tablet and a method known as scrying. 2 of the other books describe the 24 different angels and their relation to the 24 hours in the day, and the 360 spirits of the degrees of the zodiac. However, the Lesser Key's most famous book is known as Ars Goetia, which contains 72 sigils, each representing a different demon, as well as instructions on how to summon the 72 demons and even how to control them. Before you go searching for a copy at Barnes & Noble, consider the following. The Lesser Key of Solomon is apparently a cursed book, with anyone who owns a copy of it reportedly being subject to constant bad luck, or in some cases even death. Some owners of the book have reported seeing the pages turning by themselves and even flying across the room, while hearing whispers and seeing dark shadow people. If this warning has reached you too late and you have already fallen victim to this horrible curse, the good news is that it can apparently be broken by burning all the pages and disposing of the ashes. No one knows for sure who wrote the Lesser Key of Solomon. Some of course believe that it was written by King Solomon himself as a gift for his son. But others believe that it was actually dictated by some of the 72 demons in order to give themselves a means of crossing over to our world. Whoever actually wrote it, I hope that it was done with the purpose of helping us control the dark forces that are knocking on the door of reality, and not the other way around. As there is no way to know for sure who is responsible for this demonic grimoire, the smart move would probably be to avoid the book and avoid using it, and summoning forces beyond your understanding or control, who wish to claim your soul for their own. Number 1. Master Leonard. Who would have thought that someone named Leonard could be frightening? And yet here we are. Leonard is one of the spirits or demons featured in the 1818 demonology text, the Dictionnaire Infernal, by Jacques Collin, which describes various demons as well as their hierarchies. Leonard is described as a 3-horned goat with the face of a man, who uses his horns to initiate his followers and grant them satanic powers. His job title is Grand Master of the Nocturnal Orgies of Demons, which is undeniably an impressive job title. He is known for having banquets thrown in his honor by his followers, where they all consume the flesh of a stillborn goat, which is then eaten without salt and boiled with reptiles in order to depurify the sinless meat. He also has a habit of transforming into a handsome young soldier and luring young women into the wilderness where he will impregnate them, with all the resulting children being stillborn as an offering to sin. Male followers of Leonard are granted the ability to transform into monstrous animals, or even into the incubi, which we already detailed. What makes Leonard so frightening isn't just his ability to corrupt people, but the idea that his actions directly lead to more demonic creatures that we are unable to effectively fight being created. In order to keep our world as demon-free as possible, Master Leonard and his parties should probably be avoided, no matter how fun some parts of them might seem. With that, another one of our journeys together is complete. I hope that you have come away from this with a greater understanding of the evil forces that are at work in the world, and why it would be unwise to interact with or summon them in any way. The evil forces that run this dark dimension have asked that I remind you to like, comment, and subscribe, lest they be forced to offer you up as a sacrifice to the various creatures of hell. Nothing in this world is free, so ask yourself, would you rather pay for this video with engagement or your eternal soul?